Okay, now we have George, who's going to talk about game design. I'll pull up your stuff. You can get on stage.
Is that clicker, right?
Yeah, that's the clicker.
Cool. Hey, guys. Whoa, there's loads of you. No pressure. Let me just try the clicker a sec. Sweet, okay. Yeah. Thank you, guys. Thank you for coming. So, for those of you who don't know who I am, I'm George. I work at Spling Point with the guys, Jandel. They're sitting over there. Hey, guys. Now, we work on a lot of games at Spling Point. In fact, here are a few of them. In fact, Jansen kind of stole my thunder in the keynote back there, but we've been doing it for the past few years. I've been at the company for about 4 years now. We really try to have fun, create games, create games we like to enjoy, and create games hopefully you guys like to enjoy as well. Now, quick show of hands. How many of you guys remember playing your first ever Roblox event? How many? Yeah, I see a few. I know, yeah. Now, crazy enough, it's been 16 years since the first ever Roblox egg hunt. And you know what's crazy? Like, just to put that in perspective, I was 6 years old when that came out. Yeah, it was crazy. And I'm 22 now. It makes me feel old. Now, for those of you who have been here for long, I know there's some people who aren't from Roblox, aren't really Roblox veterans. You guys know that events are a really core part of the platform's DNA. It's part of who we are, part of our journey. And now, as Dave kind of mentioned in his keynote, they're back. At a time when we needed them the most, at a time when we're getting nostalgic, and a time when games are more immersive, more equipped to kind of inspire than ever before. But there's a really big question, kind of going into making these kind of events. How do we make a successful event? How can we create an integration that hits the right spots with our players, that maximizes our returns, and keeps players coming back? Events require more focus than normal. It's not just like releasing a normal update. These events are effectively a stress test. You are throwing your game effectively under scrutiny, and it is your job to make sure that you effectively do the best job you can. Well, how do you? Well, we're going to try and answer that today. We're going to look at 2 of our kind of events. We've done 6 this past year. For each, we're going to basically go through kind of the journey of both, kind of see what we learned and what the results were. And then we're going to kind of give you guys a few takeaways. We're going to go over it. So starting off with Steep Steps. Has any of you played Steep Steps before? A few of you? Yeah, there's a few of you. Now, for anyone who has played Steep Steps, you know it is completely rage-inducing. Yeah, I'm not going to lie, I have pulled my hair out multiple times just playing it and testing it. We've had it for nearly 2 years. It really blew up last year. It's all about climbing up a mountain with nothing but a ladder, hoping Roblox physics don't break, and praying you don't get pushed off a cliff. The game is extremely rage bait, and it really is the definition of getting back up and picking yourself up again. It's not everyone's cup of tea, but if you can tolerate high stakes, it's really fun. Here we go. Now, Steep Steps, for the hunt, Steep Steps had an update developed in a really short time frame. We had 72 hours. It was out of our control, I'll be honest, but despite that, it's a really good illustration of why time management is really important. The sooner you finish, the more QA you can get, it's less stress for you on release day. You really want to get that out of the way. We opted for a scavenger hunt to kind of fit within the scope of the time. It introduced the players to kind of the core loop of Steep Steps, climbing. We have a bunch of quests in the map, and it just kind of slotted right into the format. And we just felt it was natural and a kind of a soft launch into the game. But as you'll see, it was anything but soft. Steep Steps, more like stupid steps. Make the quest easier, I'm going to rage. See, gameplay was brutal, and the feedback was even more brutal. Many new players who were kind of unfamiliar had a rough first-time experience. We kind of underestimated how frustrating some of the game's unique quirks could be, and it kind of got in the way of players' goals, and that's not ideal. But as any studio should, we love feedback, and you guys should too. Events bring a lot of feedback, and it's really important to listen to it. And from this feedback, we kind of found out about 3 major pain points, gave us some long-term lessons that hopefully helped us tackle a couple issues that are kind of common in event games. So the first one is the game's learning curve. The skill required to complete the quest didn't align with the player's motivations. Now, quick show of hands, how many of you play events to get free items? Be honest, come on. Yeah, come on. Now, are you going to choose an easy way to get those items? Or are you going to choose the hard way? Some people like the chase. Some people just want to get it over and done with. And if your first-time user experience doesn't prepare people to succeed, you will not see the behavior you want. You won't see the engagement you want, as players will just choose easier paths to get it. For example, for the hunt, you add about 95 games, then you can get all the items. And let's just say Steep Steps, it's got a reputation for being really tricky. And some of those players were like, I don't want to play that game. I'm going to go easy ones. And we kind of made the mistake of placing the quest on kind of a new map. We didn't realize it was super tough, and we kind of had to learn the hard way of having a bunch of players play it first, and we learned from it. The second one was kind of the quest pacing. It was constantly intense. And there wasn't really much downtime, especially when you're kind of climbing up a mountain and anyone could push you off. And not everyone likes that. Some people do, but not everyone. It needs to be open. For events, it has to be open and accessible to all players and all of their goals. And being constantly overloaded can be really jarring. It also prevents players from playing at their own pace, and that means they can't kind of go through in a normal kind of manner that feels comfortable for them. Additionally, the critical path of the quest was kind of super in line with how you progress up the mountain, and that really conflicted the goals, really confused a few people, and it could have been avoided if the pacing was kind of aligned with players' expectations. And finally, if it loads, players do have different tastes in difficulty, and when you have one fixed level design, it makes it really hard to adjust for everyone. It causes a lot of moral dilemmas as to what is an accessible level of difficulty for everyone. And in our case, you could argue this could have been because we were stretched for time, but under usual circumstances, we could have definitely controlled it. Now, lucky for us, if it loads, we have a really awesome team. They're sitting over there. I already mentioned them. Yeah. And they're really experienced in weekly updates. We listened to the community, got these changes in within a day, pretty much, but first impressions really matter. Minor issues in the game that we thought were kind of quirks, unique kind of features of the game, were actually significant pain points. It hurt the game in the short term, and it drove players away. Think about it like a house. If the foundation is weak, then any addition you add will be unstable. So it's important to design thoughtfully and ensure you are supporting the player's goals. Because games are a dialogue. You, the designer, are speaking to the player through the decisions you make, and understanding each other is key to growing. So overall, Steep Steps still performed pretty well. We got about 11K concurrent players. It was pretty decent. And the game received positive social media feedback for thematic design after we kind of made some changes. Most important, we learned a lot. We learned a ton from kind of our mistakes, and now we kind of applied into our next event, which was Dusty Trip. How many of you played Dusty Trip? Yeah, some of you played it. Now, we were asked to create events for Dusty and Gunfight. I'm going to focus on Dusty here. But Dusty is a road trip sim for anyone who hasn't played it. It's all about driving diverse landscapes with friends, exploring new places, and taking out bosses. It's a fun game. It's one we're actively working on right now, and it's a combination of what we learned so far. So, contrary to the hunt, we actually did have a regular time frame for this. And we thought, it's super important. It's the Roblox. It's the classic event. Why not go a little extra further? We centered this around a new world called the Classic. It was a quest to reach Roblox HQ, travel through 4 checkpoints, and fight bosses. This time, we had to kind of introduce ticks. It was a secondary currency that you could spend at a hub and get items. And it really allowed us to kind of take a different approach this time. Steep Steps, we kind of made it integrated into the world. This time, we made it an independent world in itself. And it allowed us to kind of give a fresh new take on an experience that welcomes all players. And it allows us to adjust difficulty kind of variably, so to speak. To make gameplay really accessible, we kind of considered, straight off the bat, what does the player do? We designed a lobby with a clear path in mind, using the theme to communicate what exactly you need to do. We try to teach players through their goals. So for example, you see in the middle bottom photo there, is a person trying to pick up a ticks. Now, placing ticks at spawn straight away, first and foremost, there are going to be players there that are going to want to pick up the ticks. But behind that, you're also teaching the player how to pick up something. And then you're also onboarding them into the rest of the game. It introduces the player to the core control scheme, while making victory seem achievable and manageable to the player. The quest pacing was also heavily improved in comparison to the hunt. Checkpoints were kind of spaced out evenly. We took a lot more time to it, and there was plenty of side content. We also kind of omitted a lot of the more complex and stressful elements. We just kept it to the core, like the bits that people like, driving around, playing with your friends. It allowed to keep gameplay engaging and allows players to kind of play at their own pace without kind of have to worry about, resource management or whatever. But the biggest improvement at all with Dusty was to the players' autonomy. We centered gameplay around them. Difficulty was adjusted based on the amount of players that were in and based on their preference. Players could explore, skip, or stop content whenever they wished. And it allows players to choose their own path without having to stop in the middle or leave the game and have to restart. Thematically, we also tried to really deliver strong. And we even managed to license iconic music, Wind of Forwards. You might have heard of it if any of you are classic Roblox players. Really added to the event's kind of atmosphere, especially at the boss battle. And it was jam-packed with nostalgia. It's the coolest boss I made. And it really gave players a slice of classic Roblox, which is what we wanted to deliver. So in the end, hard work paid off. Dusty Trip was extremely well received. We had really strong playtime, strong engagement levels. We had a 10% increase in session time overall. And we even got 5 million daily active users at one point. Really high sentiment with the Quest application of the theme. I think when I went on social media, I was really ecstatic by the fact that everyone had kind of said, oh yeah, it's got classic, it's Balefire, it's 1x1x1. It was really awesome. And the elements of success could be attributable to the longer dev time, but it was mostly from what we learned from the hunt. I doubt players would have enjoyed their experience if we had not considered how they were going to enjoy it. So what are your takeaways from our journey? Well, takeaway 1, understand the magic. Understand the magic of your game, an event you are participating in, and play on what makes it fun. If your game is naturally replayable, you're less susceptible to the risk of kind of an event hijacking that. But if you have a lot of layers, be critical about what your players need to achieve and have fun. Introduce what's core to your game and let them decide if they want to come back or not. But most importantly, try to embrace the theme. Don't go trick-or-treating without your costume. The theme is a source of fun for players too. Don't neglect that, or you'll stand up for all the wrong reasons, and then you'll get tons of Twitter stuff. The next one, design your events with intent. Most players will be binging all of the event games at once. Player behavior like that is out of your control, so account for it. Design quests that keep the players' preferences, motivations, and goals all in mind. Non-linear gameplay or objectives you can pick up anytime are pretty good for this, and it allows the player to decide what to do at their own pace, and it makes gameplay theirs and not yours. And finally, the most important one, if it loads. First impressions really matter. Players want a good time, not a long time. Make success accessible, make success intuitive, and make their success something to remember. Because if you set the tone from the beginning, they will come back, because they enjoy it. Anyway, if it loads. Thanks for listening, guys. I can take questions if you guys want, but if you want to talk to me outside, it works too. It's up to you guys. If there's any questions here that you guys want to ask. That sounds good. All right. I'll see you guys in a bit. Thank you very much.